This video is to show you how to perform an item receipt on a return authorization with CloudExtend XL for NetSuite. Before we demonstrate the use case, we will need to know what fields are required when uploading an item receipt for an item return. Let's start by editing the template that we have created for demo purposes. When we build an item receipt template, we will need to add the following header fields. The TRAN ID will be used for reference and searching inside of NetSuite's global search, and the created from field in which we would add the return authorization number. And at the item level, we have the item receive, order line, which is the line IDs from the return authorization, and we also have the item, quantity, and replace all field. You will use the replace all field if you are performing a partial receipt. When it comes to field requirements, these fields are the bare minimum when creating an item receipt template. You can add more standard and custom fields based on your NetSuite account. Now that we have a better understanding of what fields are required, let's go to the created from field and add the return authorization number. You will need to make sure you have the return authorization number available for the upload. And as you can see, I have the return authorization number in the RA sheet. Let's start by copying the return authorization number. Now you're going to go paste the RA number into the created from field. When the system validates the number, it states that there are multiple results, 15 to be exact. In this scenario, there are two options. The first one is to type out the full name of the transaction. In this case, we're going to type out return authorization number 108. Once the RA result returns, we're going to select the result to validate it in the cell. Now we're going to go copy down the RA number throughout the rows. The second option is to use the internal ID of the return authorization. In order to do this, you'll need to have the RA internal ID available. As you can see, I have the internal ID of the return authorization available here on this sheet. Now I'm going to type out the internal ID in the created from field on the item receipt. As you can see, I added double brackets to let the system know that this is an internal ID. Now I'm going to repeat the internal ID throughout the rows. Next, I'm going to add the true value for the item received field so we can retrieve these items as a return. Then we will copy the line ID, item, and quantity from the return authorization sheet and then paste it to the appropriate fields on the item receipt. Now that we have all the fields filled up on the template, we can go to the update button and select Upsert All Record. In just a second, you will see the internal ID show up in column B. If I want to return the data for TRAN ID and line, then I will need to go to the Refresh button and select Refresh All Records. After we refresh the data, you can see the TRAN ID and line ID returns from NetSuite. Now that we have the TRAN ID, we can copy and paste it into the NetSuite global search to confirm the upload was successful. As you can see, the item receipt shows up on the search. Now let's open the item receipt to confirm the upload was correct and successful. You can see the TRAN ID and created from field were loaded successfully. If we go to the item sublist, we can also see that the items and quantity were loaded successfully as well. We can also confirm the upload was successful by going to the return authorization to see if the status is pending refund. In the return authorization, we're going to refresh the page and you're going to see that the status is going to be updated to pending refund. Thank you for watching this video on how to upload item receipts for your return authorization.